It's been a stressful day and I'm gonna paint something fun just to de-stress. I hope you like this one. This is a Kokeshi doll, a Japanese doll. As you can see from the photograph, and as usual, I draw from my Palomino black wing pencil outline, always the macro first, before the details, the complete outline, and then go in to fill in the blank and draw the cutesy little doll with all the tiny little details of flowers and so on and so forth. For Kokeshi dolls are essentially a doll that you take home after you have gone to a temple in Japan, and it's sort of a memory of your visit to the temple. But of course, we are just doing it for fun and cutesy stuff here. And here is a sketch more or less done. And because it's simple, keep it very, very simple and easy. There's nothing complicated about that drawing at all. So here, the first layer of the sketch, I used a combination of dark purple with a bit of neutral tint, and with that I represent black, if you like. I don't really like the black color, so I try to avoid pure black, if you will. And here I just lay down the first layer in a flat wash, leaving a lot of white where you can see the highlights as well as the decoration on the dress itself. With the second layer, what you do is, I use dioxin purple with a mix of neutral tint. I leave a bit of a buffer zone, as you can see on the edge, so that there is a differentiated gradient between the first layer, the second layer, and so on and so forth. Just make sure you can see the paper white, the first layer, and there's a small strip for the highlight, as well as on the edges. You can see in the photograph itself that there is sort of a buffer zone and edge. That really allows you or the eyes to see the three-dimensional sense or form of the doll. As you can see, I'm also leaving the dressed elements or decorations paper white as well. Don't intend to paint over that. It's possible to use a opaque white for it, but it's easier just to leave the white, paper white, and make it more of a watercolor feel to the whole sketch. And anyway, it's very therapeutic just to paint around it. I dilute down a bit of the purple so that now as I go towards the bottom part of the doll, I'm using a lighter version, or the lighter version tonally speaking, so that I can give a sense, because that's what I observe in the photograph. Oftentimes in the photograph you don't see all the information or details of the doll. You have to make do with a bit of imagination to think about what you see. Hence, when you paint from real life, it's gonna help. It's always better to paint from real life for sure, because you can see all the information, including all the lights, the lighting and the effects on the reflection of the lights and so on and so forth. But now that it's just a photograph, I just gotta make do with what I can see at this point. I will be leaving a link to the photograph so that you can try the sketch yourself. The link will be in the description below. So I think I'm done with the second layer, more or less, just touching up here and there. I don't quite like the hard edges at this point, but later on I'll soften it. To make the whole sketch more three-dimensional, I'm just reading the photograph. I'm trying to replicate where I see the values of darkest values and the lighter values and so on and so forth. Remember, values is what makes the three-dimensional form works. It's going to be your ability to read the various tone scale, if you like, or value scale from the photograph, and try to represent it back into the sketch itself. So what I'm trying to do is essentially just reading the photograph, nothing more than that. Reading the photograph is a set of skills that you can learn by observing. The other thing you can do is you use your phone, take the photo, and then create a value scaled version. You can first duplicate it and then convert it into black and white. On iPhone, you can do it on a noir setting, and that helps as well. So at this point, as I sit evaluating the sketch, I'm just gonna put in the bits and bobs, the belts, the ribbon, and what I do is I use a combination of 3 colors: new gamboge, cadmium orange, and cadmium red. Those colors allows me to create a combination that is strong, and it is actually quite a useful set of colors that you can use whenever orange or red, reddish orange is called for. Why do I use more than one color? Because it's always more mature in the way that you use more than one color. Using one color is too simplistic. Throw in 2-3 charging colors so that you can see the slight variation of the colors in the little shape of the belt, the little shape of the ribbon. Always introduce maturity and a form of complexity, if you like, into tiny little shapes, and that your eyes can see. Although it's very slight variation, but they make the sketch that much more interesting. And now we're going to deal with the shadows. We're going to go in with a muted or neutral colors. We're going to put in using the same violet combination, but throw in a bit of yellow orangey sort of colors from the orange mix that I have earlier. And you can see I'm using a dry brush technique. Slowly drag the dry brush. Make sure you dry your brush on the tissue paper, and then you drag it out so that it creates a sort of a texturing away from the door, if you like, representing the light that's falling from the left, casting a shadow on the right. Now the same thing, there's another source of light casting the shadow on the left. Dry brush it all the way through, dragging it out, and that's just texturing that you can do easily. So what do you do when you create when you're trying to create 3-dimensional form for this sketch? Well, you look at values, you study the values of the photograph, you imagine how the values is going to be, and you put in the values as you see and try to create the 3-dimensional sense. Well, you have to deal with the values and the edges as well between the shapes I put in. So as I put in, I noticed that the edges of the second layer is a little bit harder than the first layer. I have to do something about that later, but in any case, now I'm just putting in the darker dark, if you like, and just to touch up some of the darks as well. I try not to make the white too jarring by also putting in some of the shadows over the whites as well. At this point, as I evaluate the sketch, I realize that I have already, done too much damage to the white, if you like. So I use my favorite opaque white, which is Copic opaque white, and I'm putting in a bit more or recover some of the whites. You have to know that paper white and Copic opaque white is going to be different, and it will give you a slightly different feel to it. So be careful, be wary of how you use it, and don't overdo it. But in order to recover some of the highlights, I'm using this opaque white. Well, actually any opaque white will do, such as titanium white, gouache, those are all will work just fine. At this point, I'm going to write in my name, put in the date, put some notes about what this sketch is all about. Well, it's about a stressful day and a fun and relaxing sketch that I could do just to clear my mind. It doesn't take long. All this sketch takes more or less 20-30 minutes maybe. I've speed up some of the video for you, but all in all, it was a very relaxing sketch. I hope you can try something like this. There are plenty of Kokeshi doll photograph on the internet. You can just download it and try it. If you don't want to Google one yourself, you can try the link that I've provided. At this point, what I'm going to do is softening the edges. I'm going to go in with a stiff brush. You can get one of those bristle brushed, chop it off, cut it short, and wet it, and then use it to soften the edges, as you can see here. Nothing fancy, just softening the edges so that the sketch looks a bit more established, mature, and the shape is less of a sticker on the paper, but more if you like dreamy, and it's always more interesting when you see a sketch like that. Some people prefer the sharp edge, but I actually prefer the soft edges, if you like. I even go in and soften some of the inside shape, and just to create, like I said earlier, some of the hard edges was a little bit too hard edge for me, so I'm going in to just create the soft edge to make it to have this more interesting look, if you like. So here we are, we've finished the sketch. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Stay safe wherever you are. Peace, Whee Teck out.